So this is going to be our last video, I think, of this kind of JavaDraw ArrayList stuff. And it's the last task that you really need to have, last skill you need to have for your programming assignment. So let's just kind of pick up where we left off last time. I'm working with the same code, just kind of building off that. In your assignment, you are going to have a few things to kind of copy in here, same from last time, and then we'll have some tasks to add onto here. Let's just kind of remember, this is where we're at. I have my counter in here. You don't need to have that. If you want to, that's fine. What I'm going to do here is I want to add a little kind of house or maybe like an umbrella or something in the middle of the screen, and then I want that to stop any rain from hitting it. So it's like a roof or something, and the rain hits it, and then there shouldn't be any rain. It should kind of delete when it touches that. So let's do this. All right, so let's get into coding that. First, I'm going to add a rectangle to the screen, and I'm going to make this a I'm going to try and make this as just an instance variable. So I'm going to make it inside of this start method, and then I'm going to actually modify my code here a little bit. So let's just start by making a rectangle. Roof is equal to rectangle. Let's see, we want to be screen. Let's see, location here. We want to be kind of towards the bottom. Let's see, if the whole thing's like 800 across. Let's put it like, I don't know, 300, and we'll put it towards the bottom of the screen, so say 400, and then let's make the width, what was I thinking, like 200, and we'll make the width is 200, and we'll make the height, say, 50. That should be all right. Let's just take a quick look at how that's going to look. Just making an object in here called a roof. Yeah, so we should see that. Cool. That's about right. I'll make it a little bit thinner here, so let's put that down to about 20, and that should be okay. All right, so we have our roof here. The next thing that we need to do is, basically what we need to do is, we want to keep this so that we are deleting the rain when it gets to the bottom, so we don't have that continuous buildup of rain. But I also want to check when the rain is hitting the roof, I also want to delete it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this delete rain method. And one thing I'm going to pass into this, instead of making this a global variable, like when I delete the rain, I need to check to see if it's touching the roof. So I'm going to need to have access to this roof variable. So I'm going to send it in as a parameter, and then I'm going to update my delete rain. It'll give me an error right now because it's saying like it's not expecting that, or what's it saying? It's not applicable. It basically means like we need to update this method as well to expect a rectangle. We'll call it. We'll call it roof. Obviously, this name could be whatever you want. I'm going to call it roof. And so let's see, what I'm going to do in here is, I think I'm just going to do two things in here. You know what, actually, I'm just going to add this in a separate statement. I could combine what I'm about to do into one conditional statement here, but just for simplicity, I'm going to break this out. So we said, remember our object in here, each time we go through the loop, we're going to call it temp. So what we're going to say is if, I'm going to do this, we have a method. So basically what we want to do is every time we're looking through the ovals, we want to see if they are touching this roof object. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into roof. So in JavaDraw, we have a method in here, roof dot, and we're going to look at overlaps. So we're going to check to see when the roof overlaps with our little variable here. And then if the roof and the temporary variable are overlapping, then we need to really just do this again. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. Really, ideally, you could put these two things into here, into one statement. If the y value is greater than 580, or it's overlapping with temp, just remove it. So you could do that all in one. I'm just choosing to separate it just for demonstration purposes. And so it's really all it takes to delete something. It's just to check to see if something is colliding. It already has a method built into here where we can overlap that. So let's run this. And we're going to have this run down. Go to hit, and you're going to see the rain is deleted. And we check the values, it's kind of going up and down because sometimes the rain is touching here, sometimes it's not. And that's just kind of how it's working there. There's other ways we can do this. Like we used a built-in overlaps method. You could also do something where it's like, if you wanted to code this, want to show off your coding a little bit more, or just like kind of do this by yourself, you could check. So I'll stop the video. If you want to stop the video right now and code it, that's fine. It's a pretty simple task to code. What you could do is check to see, we want to delete this thing if the temp x value is let's see. We could see if it's between like the length. Basically, we want to see if the x value is in between the length of that rectangle at the same y value. We should delete it. So we could do something like this. Check to see if the x value is greater than, we could say, roof x. That's going to be its top left value. And let's see here. We want to make sure that it's greater than, to the right of the roof x. And again, you can stop this if you are just going to use the other one. And we want to make sure that the x value of that temp is less than roof, maybe less than or equal to, it makes sense here, x. And so we want to get the x value plus whatever its width is. So we can do this plus roof dot width. And if these two things are true, then let's remove this. So let's try out and see how this would work. There's going to be some errors to begin with, but hopefully you can see kind of where those are coming from. Oh, leaving something right away. We're missing a parenthesis here. Yep, looks like it. Too many parentheses. So I'll close this. And so what you can see, this is, it's working in a way. It's not producing, it's deleting any range that's between these two x values. But the other thing we need to check is to see if it's also at this y value. So we could add this into here. So so for any of our rain objects, the values of the rain need to be greater than the x of the roof, but less than the x of the roof plus its width. So that's like either side. And then also we want to check the y values. We could also say in here, those two things have to be true. In order to delete it, those two things have to be true. We can also say temp.y is, let's say it has to be greater than or equal to roof.y. Because then it's like either, as soon as it touches, ideally as soon as it touches the top of the roof, we'll delete it. But also if it gets one step past, we'll also delete it there. So let's take a look at this. Having rainfall, rainfall, rainfall. And we're deleting it as it touches. So that's basically what the contains method is doing, or excuse me, the overlaps method is doing. This is just how you would code it. And the good thing about the overlap one is that it works for any object, so it's kind of useful. But if you had something easy like this, it's not that bad to code. Okay, so all right, a little bit of a long one, but hopefully you got something out of that.